Welcome to Mitcham Lane Baptist Church this morning. We are looking forward to having a good worship together, blessing the name of the Lord and praising as always. Thank you.
Time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. So bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. 'Cause I'll worship your holy name.
I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. I raise a hallelujah with everything inside of me. I raise a hallelujah. I will watch the darkness flee. I raise a hallelujah in the middle of the mystery. I raise a hallelujah. Fear you lost your hold on me. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. Sing a little louder.
Sing a little louder.
Sing a little louder.
Sing a little louder.
praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will rise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive.
The nicest thing one of my neighbours is actually done for me in this time of need is she's asked if we would like any shopping, which I thought was very thoughtful of them during this uncertain time with COVID, during obviously our isolation time.
My old neighbour Wilma, who's is no longer with us. Yeah, I mean, her and her husband were always just amazing, you know, old neighbours anyway, but particularly after Hugh died, I could literally, if I was feeling, you know, on the edge of ready to kind of like break down, I would just go next door, knock on the door, and it wouldn't matter what time of the day it was. I would always get, you know, a cup of tea, and she would just feed me as well, you know, whether I wanted to be fed or not. So yeah, quite ordinary things, but actually just such a comfort. And then sadly, when her husband died, I was still able to go around there, and I guess it was really sort of like a mutual support thing. And I like to think that she got support from me going around as well. But yeah, so food obviously, and just neighbours being there, I guess.
There was nothing necessarily specific, but we used to have some really nice neighbours. The Smiths on the right hand side, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, especially Mr. Smith. He would help out with everything like odd jobs and painting and stuff, and I greatly appreciated knowing that he lived next door. It always meant that I felt that my parents were safe because the Smiths were always looking out for them.
My downstairs neighbour is really generous. My birthdays and Christmas, I've been getting a large carry bag full of goodies, sometimes some flowers, and his generosity just exceeds everything, so I'm really grateful to him.
That my neighbor keeps doing for me is on a Wednesday morning, the dustmen, they actually throw your bins all over the place, and he's always returning it into my gate. I think I need to say a big thank you.
I am lucky enough to have a lovely Romanian family living upstairs, in the flat upstairs. The two boys used to be my lodgers when I lived next door, and they have, by a quirk of fate, wound up renting the flat above me. And they and one of them's wife, they just do all sorts of things for me. They're always happy to do any heavy lifting. They help out in the garden, and they're just generally, I'm really, really happy to have them upstairs. And they're a lovely Christian family, so they pray for me. So yes, thank you for the lungus.
Hello, my name is Philip. I think one of the nicest things my neighbor has done for me was when I moved into Mitcham from South Norwood. The fence of the church manse was broken, and so I was trying to fix it, and I'm not good at DIY. I'm the worst person when it comes to DIY. And so the neighbor came along. He's very good. He was an engineer, and he came along and he volunteered to help me, and we worked together, and we got the fence fixed. And the fence is still working up to now, over a decade. So I really appreciate the work that the neighbor did. And also in return, we also did some nice things. My wife baked a cake for him.
Hi, good morning. And just to encourage you under my pastoral care hat, that if you have any needs at all within the fellowship, I mean, that you have personal needs, you have health issues, whatever, just encourage you to really share via the church office will be the best way, so that we can pray for you, we can support you in practical ways as well as in prayerful ways. So just encourage you, please let us know if there's anything we need to know about how you are. Thank you.
Good morning, and our reading today for service, it comes into two parts. The first part is Matthew 22 verse 39 to 40, and it reads, "And the second is like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." And the second reading is from Luke chapter 10, verse 25 to 37. "And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? He said unto him, What is written in the law? How readest thou? And he answering said, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And he said unto him, Thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, And who is my neighbor? And Jesus answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him, and went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow, when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. Which now of these 3 thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, He that showed mercy on him. Then said Jesus unto him, Go, and do thou likewise. Here endeth the reading for today.
Good morning. This morning we're continuing our series on love and looking at the commandment to love our neighbour. So let's pray as we begin. Father, we thank you for the reading of your word and what you can teach us through it. And we just pray that this morning we might hear your word and apply it to our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. So, love our neighbour. A couple of weeks back, Jenny spoke about the greatest commandment, to love God with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind, and made reference to the second command, which Jesus says is like it. So it's important, this commandment to love our neighbour. And we were saying with the expert in the law, well, who is my neighbour? Is it just the person who lives next door? Or those who live in my street? Jesus uses the parable of the Good Samaritan to answer the question. And we know that parable very well. But clearly the story is about who showed compassion to the man who had been beaten and robbed and left half dead. Surely the priest and the Levite would stop and help the man, having religious duties to carry out. But no, Jesus discounts them. The only one to show compassion was a total stranger, not his next door neighbour, and more than that, a Samaritan, who a Jew would have no dealings with. And when Jesus asked the inquirer, well, who do you think was a neighbour to the man who'd been robbed and beaten? His reply is, the one who had mercy on him. That's the right answer, Jesus said. Go and do likewise. So when we think about who our neighbour is, we need to think differently. The Greek word for neighbour can also mean a fellow human being, which aligns itself with the Samaritan in the parable, not just someone who lives next door. In fact, the full command in Leviticus 19:18 is, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against one of your people, but love your neighbour as yourself. Hear these words from a well-known song. When I needed a neighbour, were you there? Were you there? When I needed a neighbour, were you there? And the creed and the colour and the name won't matter. Were you there? And when we look in Matthew chapter 25, Jesus is sharing with his disciples about what will happen when he comes again in his glory. Matthew 25, verses 34 to 36 reads like this: Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. And then in verses 37 to 39, all these folks say, well, when did we do all these things? And in verse 40, Jesus says, I tell you the truth, whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. During the pandemic, we've witnessed many and various acts of kindness shown by individuals and groups. Maybe you've shown acts of kindness yourself. Maybe you've been shown an act of kindness by someone. Whatever you did for me, says Jesus. This is what loving our neighbour means. The Samaritan truly showed an act of kindness. Finally, there's one other thing to note in this command, and that is the last two words, as yourself. Love your neighbour as yourself. How much do you love yourself? How much do I love myself? And what does that mean? What does that actually mean? Well, it's more than just how we look. It's about appreciating who we are. Psalm 139:14, well known, says this: "You created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." It's about looking after ourselves as best we can. That's what loving ourselves means, and there's probably more than just those three things. So, wrapping this up, to love our neighbour as ourselves is to see them as they are, to appreciate who they are, and to look after them as best we can. As someone once said, strangers are just friends we haven't yet met. James puts it this way: "Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by what I do." Or as our MLBC strapline says, love God, love people, love life. Let's love our neighbours as ourselves, whoever they may be, whenever we may meet them. Whatever you did for the least of these, Jesus says, you did and you will do for me. Amen. Just pray in closing. Lord, thank you for your word, and thank you that we can hear your word and apply our word to our lives. Help us to see those neighbours, those strangers, where we can show that act of kindness. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless.
What does it mean to belong to Baptists Together? We are each a brushstroke made by our Lord's hand, each one playing a valuable and unique part in Baptists Together. Each Baptist adding to God's canvas in beautiful ways. Our churches are full of energy, colour and vibrancy. Our regional associations, colleges and specialist teams help our churches to paint God's picture. God works his canvas. Adding layers of his love to tell his story throughout the Baptist family. As Baptists Together, we commit ourselves to being a movement led by the Spirit of God. Celebrating diversity, we will value trust and respect one another in Christ. So what does it mean to belong to Baptists Together? It means we're part of God's bigger picture as he paints his kingdom.
Morning church, hi, it's Jane. I'm going to show you a quick craft today, how to make a greeting card for all different kinds of occasions. So I've got this one here, this is my flower, my 3D pop-up flower. And this one's to my mum to say, I miss you, Mum, haven't seen you for months. So I'm going to send her that. But you could do one that's like a sun, perhaps say welcome to the neighbourhood if somebody new's coming to live nearby. Or you might want to say thank you, perhaps thank you to a nurse or a teacher, or perhaps even somebody in the supermarket, somebody who's working and looking after us, keep it in the difficult times. So it's nice and simple. All you need is a sheet of A4 card. So you need to fold it into a card shape. Get a really good crease along the fold. There we go, that's important. And then we're going to draw half of our shape onto the front of the card because it will be mirrored when we cut it out. So I think I'll have a go at the sun one. But you know, you play around with the shapes. You just need to make sure it's quite a simple shape and something that mirrors, something that's something that is, what is that word? Oh my goodness. Something that's the same both sides. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do a sun. So I'm going to do half of her face. There we go, just a half a circle. Then I'm going to give her a nice pointy ray coming off in the middle. One at the top. And then one each in between the different rays. There we go. So you should have half a sun shape or half a flower or half a heart. And the important bit, we're going to cut it out, but the important bit is to leave a section that still is part of the card. So you need about 2 centimetres that you don't cut out. So if you see here, can you see where I've put the black? About that much you need to not cut, otherwise the card will fall apart. Okay, so here we go. Right. It's always nice to get a card, isn't it? And also, it's Valentine's Day coming up. Oh my goodness. So you might want to do one for, might be a secret admirer of somebody and want to send them a card as a secret and pop it through their door. It's always nice to get a card to say somebody's thinking about you, whatever the occasion. Okay, so we do that. Okay, so make sure you leave that section uncut. So you can see my sun is loose now, apart from that section. So just make sure your folds are nice and crisp. And then fold it back on itself. So open it up, and then fold it back the other way. So you've got a nice crisp fold the other way as well. Okay, so it should look like this now. So then you're just going to push your shape to the front like that. Pull your shape forward very gently so the card itself goes to the back. Okay, so it's sticking out now and it's a 3D card. Can you see? So you can sort of heighten, make it more obvious by putting a backing card on the back if you want to. Like, so if you want to do that perhaps later, then you can see the colour through. That looks good. But you don't have to do that. It really just helps now to finish drawing the sun on. Do the other side as well. Let's do that. Okay. So this will fit in an A5 envelope. You can pop it in the post or put it through somebody's door. There we go. So you finish doing all your, go around, we'll do the different rays. Then I'm going to put a nice face on my sun. I think I'm going to do a speech bubble, saying perhaps thinking of you. There we go. So that's the basic idea. Let's have a look at her. So just be sticking forward now. There we go. So you can see you could decorate them a bit more, put some more detail in. This one I've done a bit more detail. You can colour in all the different leaves or the rays of the sun. And it is nice to have a backing paper behind. And I think somebody will be really pleased to receive that. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm back again next week to do a craft all about love. So please join me then. I'll send out details during the week. Anyway, bye for now. Okay, bye.
Good morning, church. As I'm sure you know, our regular church meeting is on Sunday the 28th of February at 11:30. So I hope you've all booked the date. At that meeting, we need to fill the 2 vacancies on the leadership team, because going forward, it's absolutely vital that we have a full team. So please be much in prayer over this matter. And can I particularly urge you to consider who you can nominate? Please, please do not leave this to someone else. Equally, if you're asked to stand, please prayerfully consider doing so. I know that many of you are under considerable pressure, indeed very heavy pressure, and the last thing you need is extra work. But nevertheless, can I urge you to seek God as to whether He's calling you into leadership for such a time as this. Now, I'm recording this message and notice on Friday morning, and at this moment in time I've received absolutely no nominations. So can I please urge you to make this a priority for prayer and action, because the deadline's the 4th of February, only a week away.
Thank you for joining us this Sunday. Do join us again next week for our all-age service on love.